Tom Sach is a fucking weirdo. A weirdo. Listen, I usually don't pay attention to these type of things. The shit I'm about to read to you guys and that we're gonna go over is so fucking disgusting. Like, I read this entire article just to make sure I was picking out certain things, like, and it wasn't twisted to sound weird. We're not gonna read the entire article. We really don't need to. I'm just gonna be picking out the most important parts. This nigga has basically been running a cult. I put it in quotation marks because I want you guys to listen to what's in the article and come to the conclusion for yourself. A few days ago, actually no, this is yesterday, he posted this tweet saying some wild things former Tom Sach studio employees told us, a thread. If you don't know who Tom Sach is, he's been designing shoes and art for a while now. He has some of the most iconic shoes. If you've seen these shoes a long time ago, the Mars Yard, this is the 2.0. And if you look at the prices for these, insane money. You could buy a new fucking car for this amount of money. Well, you can buy like a used car for this amount of money. And that's just the second version, which dropped in, what, 2017? Yeah, 2017. This is the 1.0 version. Obviously, what people are willing to sell it for, but 11,000, 20,000. And of course, the most recent shoes, his general purpose shoes. Tom Sach promised a fun cult. The sculptor likes to call his studio part of his art practice. Working there could often be scary. So some employees came out and was basically, I would say, exposing Tom Sach and his practices. Some people will call Tom Sach a creative genius. I don't want to scroll back up to that picture, but if you do want to look at that, there's a symbol in it where how could I explain this? It's a SWA symbol on the wall, literally right behind him. Before I get into this, I started realizing more and more that if you are known as a creative genius, there's a lot of leeway with what you can get away with. We see that all the time, especially with Kanye West when he was saying all the shit that he was saying. There were still people out there giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's been right in the past, even with things that people don't agree with. When he was on Sway screaming about him not having ownership and people just don't understand, come to find out people didn't understand and he knew exactly what he was talking about. And since then, people have been giving him a lot of leeway. And I feel like probably this is the same thing with Tom Sach. So let's go ahead and get into this article. Basically, he posted a listing where he wanted to make his life easier for him and his wife. This meant picking up clothes from high-end stores, managing all medical need requests, helping with rooftop garden maintenance, all of this shit. Oh, in 2010, he released a film called 10 Bullets, which is presented as both employee handbook and artwork. So this is basically things that the employee should be following, how to do certain things. You know, when you get a new job, they kind of mold you into their culture. You follow by their rules. This is how things are done here. Perfectly fine. I mean, that happens with every single job. But listen to this. In the film, Sach describes the rules that govern his studio. Everyone must place all items at parallel or 90-degree angles. There to walk quietly. Employees have to maintain a healthy diet and exercise regimen, avoid personal incentiveness, and respond to commands with words I understand or I don't understand. If this sounds cult-like, well, that was kind of the point. Employees have been known to work out in the program called Space Camp 3 times a week, 7 a.m. Now this is where it starts getting crazy. Wearing uniforms printed with their initial, last name, and the serial numbers Tom Sach assigned to them. We'd go out jogging in Soho and people would take pictures of us. It's not like they knew who Tom was. They just thought they were a regular cult. So even people outside thought that they were a regular cult. Some got serial numbers tattooed on their body, plus Sach calls it a cult. Here's how one of Sach's former studio managers describes working for him. It's almost as if he goes out of his way to sow discomfort and pawns it off as if he's some genius. It's like a ruse. This is exactly what I was saying. Artists can be a cool, unique type of weird, but Tom might have lost it maybe, or power got to his head. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Because people are seen as creative geniuses, there's a real fine line between being a genius and being crazy. People have called Kanye crazy for over a decade now. Kanye did recently, I would call him crazy. Before this shit, he was a genius, but now I'm not seeing it. And it's the same thing with Tom Sach. He could be a fucking genius and you could be crazy at the exact same time. And this is one of the details of the 10 Bullets, which was his handbook. And one after suggestion on how to properly approach Sach about his lunch. You hear how crazy this sounds? How much power he has? how to approach Tom Sach like he's not a human being at this point, like he's above you in a way. There's advice for avoiding things that makes Tom mad. It's gotten so bad to where people have said that he has called them autistic, called them the R word, called them a bitch, called them other names. These are his employees. So he is seeing these people as peasants to him. He's looking down upon them, calling them a bitch. Imagine you come into work, your boss is calling you a bitch. And this is what the issue I have with like power dynamics. A lot of these people are fucking assholes, and if a majority of humans are assholes in a way, and if you give them any type of power, they're gonna take it. Shit, even listen, if you're in here and you've worked a regular fucking job, you work at Walmart, the manager at Walmart has some type of ego. It's just fucking crazy. And I think the reason why people like Tom Sach can get away with this is because, like I said, he's made iconic shoes. His name is fucking huge. People would love to work with him, even though he said some crazy shit. Just you putting on your resume that you work with Tom Sach would probably get you a lot of opportunities. And I'm sure this is exactly how these people are looking at it. And this how, when I was reading this article, this is how I knew he was really fucking crazy. All of his pens must be new, but not new. You feel what I'm saying? The ink should already be flowing. So you gotta do a couple scribbles before you give him the fucking pen. Group lunches are to be prepared by a food systems manager, and forks are to be dropped in unison at the end of the meal. That doesn't sound cult-like to y'all? Let me know. This is what I'm getting from this article. This is what I read. Of course, like Elephant was saying, this could be geared towards just making him sound like a bad person, making it sound culty. But based off that, I mean, that sounds pretty fucking culty to me. I don't know what's up with these people and showing porn, but Tom Sach has done the same thing, man. Good old Tom Sach done the same thing. There was vintage porn on the walls of the studio, and this is the fine line between art and being weird. There's vintage porn on the walls of the studio, and Sach talked at the group lunches about the types of porn he was into, including VR porn. Tom Sach loves VR porn for some reason. Revolutionary shit, you know what I'm saying? You know how Tom Sach get down. Another young female studio member says she was afraid to be alone in the studio at night with him. He called a storage room in the basement R-word room in 2016. People didn't fuck with that, obviously, so he changed it to the consent room. Even better. Sach Studio says this was also a joke. Even if that was a joke, why would you do that to your employees? I really don't understand why you would ever feel comfortable saying this stuff. Jokes were a little different in 2016, but I don't know about that fucking different. Based on all the other shit that he's been saying, female employees have telling him, yo, listen, I'm not even comfortable with this nigga in the room. Don't have this nigga in the room at all with me. Not alone. Based on his fucking resume of things he's done so far, not looking too good for you, Tom. Not gonna lie. Unfortunately, I feel like what I'm about to read is regular shit, especially when you're in a higher up position. I don't even want to say higher position, but like when you work in the corporate world, it says Sach liked to remind those who worked for him that they were all replaceable. Well, reminding people that you're replaceable is insane. I don't agree with that at all. To a degree, it is true. Especially if you work in like a lower skill job. Like if you work at McDonald's and you get fired or you quit or whatever, they're gonna find your replacement within like the next 3 days, because the job isn't as skilled. It's easier to teach, right? If you work a higher skill job, like I don't know, let's say you're like a diesel mechanic, it might be harder to find that because it's actually a specialized skill. So being replaceable is pretty normal, I would say. Telling people that you're replaceable is absolutely crazy. But you know, Tom, man, that's too light for him. He gotta step it up a little bit. One studio assistant remembers traveling with him to an exhibition overseas where in front of a group, he said to her, "This is a cult. If you want to leave, we don't want you. There's 1 million of you." But he had to up it up even more. Another time, after becoming displeased with feedback she gave on a Zoom call, he screamed, "I don't care if she dies. There's 1 million of her and only one of me." He thinks he's so fucking special. Even someone that big, you're replaceable as well. There's gonna be another creative person out there. Reading all this shit really almost makes me nauseous, because I can't even believe that there's someone out there willing to utter these words to another human being. Honestly, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I read this article and I was in complete fucking shock. I hope it's not true. I really hope it's not true. I want somebody to disprove it, but if it is, Fuck you, Tom Sach. Fuck you.